That's W-R-I-G-H-T. Homeless news and housing policy, the right way. Hello and welcome to the Wright Report Weekend Review. On the Weekend Review here at the Wright Report, we bring you weekly headline reports of homeless news and housing policy in the Denver metro area and some occasional national items as well. The Weekend Review consists of reading local headlines in my fancy announcer's voice, followed by a quick summary of its contents and perhaps a comment from your host. That's me, Benjamin Wright, W-R-I-G-H-T. In addition to the Weekend Review, we will be producing some in-depth reports on various news items as time and technology allow, and, well, whatever talent I got. To find other episodes, visit us on YouTube at The Wright Report. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you like the work we're doing here, consider joining our Patreon. We at the Wright Report want you to be better informed by reviewing news coverage of homelessness and housing policy, paying attention to how the coverage is framed, who framed it, hence the commentary, and with a little luck have some fun along the way. So let's get it right with the Wright Report. That's W-R-I-G-H-T. Okay, this week we're going to start off and end with the story of Joe Henry. And along the way, we're going to spend a lot of time with a whole bunch of shenanigans that went on at the state capitol with the special session for the property tax credit vote. Homeless handyman fired from Brown Palace for sleeping in hotel has lost hope for housing. Joe Henry thought he had a way out when he landed a gig at the Brown Palace, but bad luck and mistaken judgment led him back to the streets. For some Denver residents living on the streets, homelessness is a pitfall too deep to escape. Colorado, the rate of people returning to homelessness has increased each year since 2019, according to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. In 2022, the rate of people across the Denver metro area who returned to homelessness after 6 months off the street was 9%, up from 6% in 2019. And more than 20% had returned after 2 years off the street, more than any year since 2018. Lifelong Denver resident Joe Henry thought he had a way out of homelessness when he landed a gig at the Brown Palace. But bad luck and mistaken judgment led him back to square one. When Henry found his roommate dead in her room last October, he didn't know her death would lead him to homelessness and a life of sleeping in his car and empty spaces in out-of-order rooms at the Brown Palace Motel. More on Joe later. Colorado AG claims landlords are colluding to raise rents. What does that mean for Denver renters? This software might have set your rent. Are Colorado landlords agreeing to artificially raise rents? That's what the Colorado Attorney General Phil Weiser thinks. On Friday, his office joined a number of other states at the U.S. Justice Department in a lawsuit against RealPage Incorporated, a software company that uses confidential data from landlords to suggest rent prices. Thousands of Denver apartment units, maybe even yours, are owned by companies that use RealPage. So how does the price fixing work? In a normal economy, companies compete for customers by offering the best value for their prices. But collusion happens when companies come together and agree to all raise prices together, forcing consumers to pay more. It's illegal. In this case, landlords aren't meeting in a room and agreeing to raise rents. Instead, they submit their confidential vacancy and pricing data to RealPage individually, and the algorithm spits out suggested prices. That could be price fixing, Weiser alleges. Commentary. Could be price fixing. Could be price fixing. It absolutely is. That's the whole point. Is for RealPage to fix the prices as high as they possibly can.
Wise guy, huh?
Back to the article. He claims RealPage has pushed landlords to end lease perks, like rent discounts, and can use information about vacancies to help landlords strategically pull rentals off the market, driving up rents. Half of the renters in Colorado spend more than 30% of their income on housing costs, wrote Weiser in a statement Friday. Renters should benefit from healthy competition between landlords to find an apartment that fits their budget and needs. But RealPage's software and market dominance have enabled collusion between landlords to fix rents, set the number of apartments available in the market, and harm renters by forcing them to pay rents above competitive levels. Denverite has reached out to RealPage for comment. The company has generally defended its software as a way to help businesses make decisions. What does this mean for Denver renters? It's no secret that high rent levels are a problem in Denver. Affordability and housing are top issues for Denverites, and nonprofit leaders say that the high cost of rent is driving up homelessness. According to a June report from the corporate watchdog group Accountable US, the 6 largest publicly traded apartment companies have all faced lawsuits across the country over their use of RealPage. The report says that those 6 companies, Midwest America Apartments, Avalon Bay Communities, Equity Residential, Essex Property Trust, Camden Property Trust, and UDR, owned nearly 6,000 units in Denver as of March. Coincidentally, Accountable US says the landlord saw a combined $300 million in profits nationwide in the first quarter in 2024. And that's just the largest landlords. In April, Denverite reported on high rents and poor living conditions at an apartment complex at Inglewood owned by Bell Partners Incorporated, a company that has been sued by the Washington, D.C. Attorney General over claims of price fixing through RealPage. Does the lawsuit mean that rents will come down? It's unclear. Commentary. The words unclear is code for no. But he can't say that. Not just no, but hell no, let alone reparations for people that have been overcharged from these landlords. These people have been stolen from. Do you think that they're going to have the overcharging of their rents returned to them? Do you think anyone's actually going to go to jail? If there are no consequences for the people who are breaking the law in this way, they're just going to find other ways to do it. Let's continue. Weiser's lawsuit asks courts to end anti-competitive agreements with RealPage and its customers around sharing sensitive information. It also wants to end what Weiser calls an illegal monopoly over this type of software. Currently, the company owns about 80% of the market for this type of software, according to Weiser. Applications for the 135 Silverthorne workforce rental units anticipated to open in the fall. Let's get this down here. Silverthorne officials say the opportunity for residents to apply to one of the town's largest workforce housing efforts could be right around the corner. Based on community sentiment, this 135-unit workforce housing project has been one of the most anticipated in Silverthorne. Commentary. Look at that advertisement for luxury living right underneath the article. What about workforce housing? Part of the reason that we don't hear about a lot of this stuff is because of who advertises.
What do you think?
Everybody that has watched the development go up over the last year and a half has also been wondering, when's it going to be available? The town will host a public information session with its former partner on the project, Gorman and Company, a developer whose other summit projects include Wintergreen Apartments in Keystone and Alta Verde in Breckenridge. The session will happen prior to applications rolling out. The rental apartments are just one aspect of the Smith Ranch neighborhood at large, which will also consist of an additional 50 single-family houses, 68 duplexes, and 96 townhomes, all that are for sale and deed restricted. Land was also preserved for the development to also include 500,000 square feet of commercial space. The town estimates that around 30,000 square feet will be used for grocery stores and the remaining 20,000 square feet for other retail uses. Highland explains that the rental aspect of development will deliver two different products. One building will be slowly low-income housing tax credit units, which is a federal program that subsidizes the creation, acquisition, and rehabilitation of housing geared towards low-income households. Highland said that Silverthorne is taking advantage. Highland says because Silverthorne is taking advantage of the low-income housing tax credit program for this building, the income cap associated with the rent control cannot be above 60% of area median income. That's how you do it. The remainder of units will be income capped from 80 to 120%. Tension simmer as Colorado lawmakers gavel into second property tax special session. Democrats' special district reps bristle at a deal they feel left out from making. The Colorado legislature is gaveling in Monday for its second special session in a year, aimed specifically at stopping rising property tax bills. Already, lawmakers in special districts are publicly blasting the process. Supporters of the session hope that a 3-day dash will lead to two seismic property tax measures being yanked from November's ballot, and an end, or at least a reprieve, from the political battles over the policy that have raged since voters axed the Gallagher Amendment in 2020. Others, including representatives of impacted special districts and several lawmakers in the Democratic majority, express skepticism and frustration about another backroom property tax deal that they're now tasked with supporting, involving unelected interests and deeper cuts to local governments and services on top of those already bearing down. They're expecting us to be rubber stamps. At least that's the sense we're getting, Representative Stephen Woodrow, a Denver Democrat, said after a House Democratic caucus meeting last week. Rather than having engaged in these discussions, we get a brief doom and gloom forecast from the fiscal folks, followed by presentations on bill terms that are nearly indecipherable without more extensive background knowledge. Governor Jared Polis announced the special session on August 15th, calling for lawmakers to pass quote-unquote framework his office helped negotiate that would further reduce property taxes beyond what the legislature adopted in May. Commentary. So Polis mentions that it was his office that negotiated the framework, gathered those backroom cigar-smoking buddies to cut a special deal, and then pretend that we're going to have an honest discussion of it while they jam it down the state legislature. I should just vote it down, teach those people a lesson. They're not having a special session to get money to house our homeless or to lower housing costs. They're having a special session to appease rich property owners who think they're above paying their fair share of taxes. That's what's going on here. All right. Colorado's special session on property taxes may be a bumpy ride. It's increasingly uncertain if the deal Polis struck to cut taxes and prevent a pair of November ballot measures will survive. Many lawmakers aren't happy about being called back to the Capitol to approve a deal they never agreed to. Commentary. Approve a deal they never agreed to. Colorado Governor Jared Polis said that he wanted a special legislative session that begins Monday to bring an end to the state's property tax wars. Commentary. Let's be real here. Polis wants to pay off his rich landowning buddies. And that doesn't end the state's property tax wars. It's just another battle. And in this battle, he's taken the choice about what happens with property taxes away from the voters. Back to the article. But first, lawmakers will get their way in the high-stakes fight. But not registered voters, only those who are rich enough to make large donations to the special group that worked out the details of this. It is increasingly uncertain if the Polis deal, struck to cut taxes and prevent a pair of November ballot measures from upending the state budget, will survive. Many Democratic and Republican lawmakers in the House and Senate aren't happy about being called back to the Capitol to approve a compromise they never agreed to. Some of them plan to introduce bills that would crumble the pact negotiated between Polis and legislative leaders and two conservative political nonprofits. Notice those Some of them plan to introduce bills that would crumble the pact negotiated between Polis, legislative leaders, and two conservative political nonprofits who agreed to pull their ballot initiatives if their demands for tax cuts were met. The deal, hired out in a private commentary. Don't they really mean secret?
You keep a secret.
Earlier this month, among a small group of negotiators that included the governor's budget director, Mark Ferdinando, and Senator Chris Hansen, a Denver Democrat, and State Senator Barbara Kirkmeyer, a Republican from Brighton. Handouts don't help. How a Colorado county reduced homelessness by 86% in 2 years. From 2022 to 2024, Douglas County witnessed a steep drop of homeless people living on the street, from 43 to 6, according to a recent point-in-time count.
Hide the money, y'all.
Commentary.
There's poor people around.
Are those numbers real? Or is this the result of some timely move-along orders? Sounds like encouraging people not to offer compassion community-wide is a low-key move-along order. Honestly, it's a rather cruel way of attacking the poor. Douglas County are pretending that they had actual improvements, when in reality, they were just doing whatever it takes to make the most vulnerable among them feel unwelcome so that they move along. They don't care where they go. They don't care what their status is, just as long as they're not where they can see them. Welcome to a prime example of a sundown town. Let's read some of this article. Amid a homeless crisis plaguing Colorado's most populated city, that's Denver, and likely where a lot of these people wound up in the end, a county just south of Denver claims to have found an effective solution to curbing homelessness in communities. Commentary. Yes, sundown them out of town, and then pretend like you're ending homelessness rather than displacing it to a city that's not yours. In a campaign to mitigate homelessness, Douglas County officials emphasized one simple message. Handouts don't help.
What do you think?
They urge residents, for example, against giving money to homeless people on roadways and sidewalks. From 2022 to 2024, Douglas County witnessed a steep drop in homeless people living on the streets, from 43 to 6. The magic of what's happening here is that the numbers were so small to start with, so we could really nip it in the bud, he told Denver Gazette. Commentary. If the numbers were so small, then maybe you have the resources to help these people meet their needs. rather than scare them out of town saying, "We're not giving you nothing." Oh, gosh, this is awful. For months, bulldozers have been digging up in the ground around the old Denver Post printing plant in Goveville. That's the massive rectangular building just west of I-25 and south of I-70, covered in graffiti. Soon the area will be known as Fox Park, a neighborhood in the works of a former Superfund site between Sunnyside and Globeville. While the printing plant's been shuttered for years, the building's become what may be local street artists' best unsanctioned canvas, and the 41 acres around the plant dubbed Fox Park Island because of how poorly connected it is to the rest of the city. Developers, despite being so eager to gobble up acreage and turn it into housing elsewhere in Denver, steered clear of Fox Island for years, even as more than 500,000 drivers a day pass the site. Why? The land's been a toxic dump. It was once the site of Argo smelter from an era when Denver processed heavy metals. The land was declared a Superfund site, a hazardous place, by the Environmental Protection Agency in 1999. Over the years, neighborhoods in Globeville have suffered from cancer. The neighborhood's still considered one of the most polluted in the country. While much of Denver boomed, Globeville has been a home for working-class families with deep roots in the area. The soil's toxicity has staved off most development and served as a deadly buffer to gentrification. On Wednesday morning, developers, federal and city politicians, architects, and others gathered at the site to celebrate the end of a massive environmental cleanup that will now allow the development to come. All right, here's some of the stuff that's coming. A World Trade Center will bring offices, retail, restaurants, and more. And that's just a taste of what the $4 billion investment will bring. Denver needs housing, and the project will provide that. 3,469 units, including hundreds that will be designated as affordable. The city will get a new Virgin Hotel, and Mayor Mike Johnson expects Sir Richard Branson will fly through town to celebrate. Anschutz Entertainment Group, a dominant live music promoter in Denver, will be opening the 2,500-seat venue on the site. There will be 24,000 square foot grocery store, a much-needed institution in a food desert. And it goes on. Let's back up a little bit. Notice the things that aren't said in the housing numbers. First, they haven't declared how many hundreds of houses will be quote-unquote affordable. Will it be 200, 300, 900? Even if it's 900 units of affordable, that means 3/4 of the 3,500 units are going to be market rate and aka luxury. That means 3/4 of the 3,500 units are going to be market rate, also known as luxury, in a city that needs affordable housing like nobody's business. You would think reporters would get wise and challenge statements like that right away. Ask for more clarification. Call their bluff. Hint, we see them not being straight with us and hold them accountable. Pricing algorithms like real pay. They're just going to wind up making these things more expensive than what they're letting on right now. This is why in the planning phase, we don't have affordable housing as an add-on. It should be the primary focus of these kinds of developments. Denver would be much better suited if this project was developed with 75% of the units being at 60% AMI or better. And then they could have fancy stuff on top of that. This is a working family neighborhood. All this stuff needs to be 60% AMI and below. Anything above is just going to price everybody who currently lives there out of the market.
Fun? You call that fun? That was boring.